tell you a story, and I think you're gonna like it. It's got rock stars, crazy crowds, and it all goes down at the coolest place on earth. I know, that's a bold claim. Thing is, statistically speaking, each and every second there's a coolest place on earth. There's one right there where that dumpster is. I know it doesn't look like much, but if you bear with me for an hour or so, I'll show you a moment in time where that dumpster is sitting is the literal coolest place on earth. Now, who am I and what do I know of cool places, you may ask yourself? Fair question. My name is Rex Thomson and I'm a music journalist, photographer, and videographer. I travel the country covering concerts and music festivals, interviewing the bands, and partying with the fans. I'm one of those folks you see in front of the front row. My whole life is searching out awesome stuff and sharing it with the world. So I promise you this, if you give me an hour or so, I'll show you a moment in time where this is the coolest place on earth. See, that dumpster is smack dab in the middle of the Spirit of Suwannee Music Park. Suwannee is an 800-acre campground that hosts dozens of concerts and major music festivals every year. Come on, let me show you around while we wait for that moment I was talking about. Let's start with the Spirit of Suwannee Music Park's most famous feature, the amphitheater stage. It's not that exciting on a Tuesday morning, but you gotta imagine it packed with people and lasers and stuff. Wait, you don't have to imagine it, we can just see it. Suwannee's famous tree-lined concert bowl is one of the world's most beloved places to experience live music for a lot of different reasons. Between the endless parade of stellar bands on the stage, the way the branches of the trees filter the lights and the lasers, and the smiles you see on every face, how could you not fall in love with this place? I know I did. When I'm shooting a show, I have to spend a good chunk of my time up near the stage, but I always love to go out and be among the good people of the amp crowd. So let's go for a walk. While we're out here, let's check in at the sound booth real quick. My buddy Tony is on duty keeping the music clean and clear. You know, sometimes I think he just moves those sliders and twirls those knobs just to look busy. I bet they don't even do anything. Towards the back of the amphitheater among the oaks is another favorite feature, the hammocks. Swinging, suspended by the trees, is one hell of a fun way to enjoy the show. But if you really want to experience the amphitheater, you gotta get up and you gotta get down. I've lost count of how many musicians say that the amphitheater at Suwannee is their favorite place to play. Something about the sway of the trees and the sea of smiling faces seems to inspire them. The bands blast 10,000 decibels of love out to the fans and they give it right back. It's like electricity that doesn't kill you. It doesn't even matter who's on the stage. It doesn't matter if it's day or night. It doesn't even matter what kind of music is playing. The park was founded with authentic bluegrass from legends like McCoury, dobro impresario Jerry Douglas, and true friend of the park, Mr. Peter Rowan. But it's so much more than just bluegrass. If you can think of a kind of music, I'll bet you it's been played on the amphitheater stage at one point or another. March 4th is a psychedelic post-apocalyptic marching band, and they give way to Skerrick leading a saxophone army, and he gives way to the one and only George Porter Jr. And if you're ready to rock, we got you covered there too. Joe Russo's Almost Dead is keeping the spirit alive. Ween is getting weird. The amp stage has even seen Big Gigantic drop some serious destruction. Though it was founded as a bluegrass park, they certainly aren't shy about getting their EDM vibe on. We've seen the Yoto improv entire sets, Beats Antique get techno tribal, while hip-hop chart toppers like Anderson .Paak, Run the Jewels, and even DJs like Clo Z rock the house. Speaking of rocking the house, Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine didn't even wait till he got onto the amphitheater stage to start wailing. And if all this rockinette gets you hungry, then good news, the Sauce Boss has you covered. He gives folks dinner and a show by getting fans on stage to cook up giant batches of gumbo while he lays down the tunes. It was pretty tasty. Speaking of bringing fans to the stage, New Orleans funksters Ivan Neville's Dumpstaphunk used to invite all the ladies in the house up to pack the stage and shake their groove thang. Mad props to my man on the bass, Nick Daniels III, for managing to keep his attention focused on the funk. Sometimes even the musicians can't believe how cool the jams are. Keep your eye on fiddler Aaron Redner down at the far end of the stage. Right in the middle of an epic bluegrass pickin' party with members of Green Sky Bluegrass, Elephant Revival, and Hot Butter Rum, he puts down his fiddle to start taking pictures. I'm telling you, if he keeps that up, I'm going to jump up there and start playing his fiddle. It's only fair. But when it comes to getting crazy on the amphitheater stage, it is hard to beat Andy Frasco. The amount of energy he and his band, the UN, put out could probably power the whole freaking stage. Frasco is ADD personified. His ability to whip the crowd into a frenzy is a sight to see. And the best thing about his shows is that he and his partners in crime had the chops to back up all that insanity. I mean, people come to music festivals to escape boring, and Andy Frasco is not boring. That's not to say Frasco doesn't manage to slip a message or two into the madness and the mayhem. Let's listen in.
All right, everyone, get down. Everyone get down. Just get down. One more time. Check it out. Even the guy in the fucking purple vest, get down. I like this guy. He looks like the dude, like the Wookiee dude. I like that. Okay. Check it out. I'm serious. Hulaween. For the rest of the weekend, remember this shit. Stay off your phone and just have the best fucking time of your life this weekend, okay? Promise me. We don't get too many of these days or it's fucking good. So enjoy them. So come on, let's pop this bitch like a balloon. Take your time, motherfucker. Like you're having sex. Come on, boy. Turn it on. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Walk a little taller. Walk a little taller. Walk a little taller. Walk a little taller. I'm Andy Frasco. Take care of your fucking self.
Suwannee is a magnificent music venue, but it takes a promoter to make it all happen. Paul Levine has a knack for picking all the right bands and never resting. I asked him if he even gets to see any music at the festivals he throws.
I'm not the kind of promoter that sits in the office that much. To me, being the best promoter I can be, it's important for me to be out talking to people and experiencing the show from a fan's perspective. Or from a VIP's perspective, or from an artist's perspective. So I try to move around a lot. And by doing that, I actually do see a lot of music. I don't necessarily get to watch whole sets, but I try to see at least a song or two of as many bands as I possibly can, because I feel it's rude not to, to invite somebody to come to a show and then not see them, even though it's impossible sometimes. So if I missed you, I'm sorry.
I asked Paul if he had any thoughts on all the wonderful energy he's helped add to the world, and unsurprisingly, he had a humble answer.
I certainly take very little credit for that sort of stuff. I think that somehow along the way I learned about the power of music in the musical community. I think I learned that at boarding school. I think the Grateful Dead and that culture taught me so much through college, through the Howling Wolf and Aspen and all that sort of stuff. That I've gotten to know people and have learned how to put these things together, and have been in a very fortunate position to be able to do it. I feel like I'm a steward in a lot of ways to the community and to the musicians, and just a facilitator of these things happening. So I try not to think about it in terms of an ego place, that I did this or I created this, because really we all created it together. And there's a lot of people who do lots of things to make it happen, and so that, like you were talking about, the same people being here at all the shows that I do, well, that's this team that makes it happen. It's not me. And I'm just lucky enough that I get to pick the bands, and to do a few things because I've been doing this for so long. It's really a product of just me being here.
Paul's right about it being a team effort, but we do appreciate him leading the way. Earlier, we heard from James Cornett about what Suwannee has become. Now I'd like to share an interview I did with his parents, Bob and Gene Cornett. Sadly, they passed before I finished. I'm truly thankful I got to share a little time with them and hear their thoughts and their story in their own words. I asked the most obvious question first. How did a couple from the hills of Kentucky come to own a music park in Florida?
Thought we'd be spending some winters in Florida probably, and went down kind of looking around to see if we could find a place, and we thought we might have a little bluegrass music at the place while we were there. But just mostly for the winter and for fun, rather than anything else. And we happened to stop by Live Oak, Florida on our way home. We knew that they'd had a festival at a county park there, and Gene's niece, by chance, lived in that town. So we stopped to visit Gene's niece, incidentally stopped and looked at that park, which at that time had been closed for 3 or 4 years. It had been built by the county with federal money when federal money was flowing freely, and it had some bluegrass music festivals there. So we went out on our way by there. We passed it on our way home. Gene's nieces, and Gene fell in love with the place, in just a very few minutes, and I knew I was doomed to try to make it happen, and so we did.
Next, Gene Cornett shared with me how the iconic chapel came to be.
The first spring, we wanted to have a sunrise service, and so the fellows went out and split some logs and made some benches, and we had a little altar, and I picked out the place for it just because it said something to me. And when we got up there and the sun came up, we were facing right directly at the sun, and because there was a fog on the lake, and it just did all of our souls some good for the hurried up work we had done to build it. And so I felt like I needed a chapel for weddings or when people need to have a few quiet minutes of their own or whatnot. And that was literally built not necessarily by the paid people at the park, but by volunteers. And even the contractor that put it under roof for me, he says, I will do it for you, totally at cost of materials, to get it under roof for you, so y'all can go ahead and get it finished up. And my friend Gretchen Swords here in Kentucky helped me with the stained glass windows. Another friend gave me a pump organ for it, and we have some beautiful benches. And then another friend, I had some walnut lumber that my brother had given me, and so he took the walnut lumber and made the pulpit and the fern stands out of it. But it's all totally was built with the love, and even the live oak tree that's carved in the front door, that was a wood carver did that for me. That's what has built the Spirit of the Suwannee. Our main stage was built the same way. The stage that they call the amphitheater there was a dream I had, and I had to get it approved by the building inspectors. And the ones in Suwannee County really had never had any experience with the stage, but I didn't necessarily dream, but I came up with the idea as to what I wanted it to look like. And I like to have never found an engineer that would put his stamp of approval on it. But I finally found one in the mobile home industry who signed off on my stage. But that is the stage that I dreamed up one spring. And people, the campers there in the park pitched in and helped. One fellow says, I'm gonna take the paint job. And he painted that whole stage with a brush. In 1 week, I wasn't gonna paint it. I didn't have time to paint it. And he says, I'll do it, I'll get it done. And he did. But that's what built the park in Florida.
I asked Miss Jean why she thought everybody was so slow to leave the park.
They're just exhausted when they get ready to go home.
I think it's exhaustion, but I think it's also that people just don't want to leave.
Well, I agree. That feeling is there too. but they're also dirty. They haven't had a good shower.
Well, there's some pretty nice shower houses there.
Oh, you better believe there are. There's a lot of sweat and tears in those shower houses.
I'm a patron of those shower houses.
I
Quite
do.
happy to find it.
I've cleaned many a toilet in those shower houses.
I feel bad for you on that.
I asked them if they had any favorite Suwannee traditions that they wanted to share.
We would sit out by the office and wave to people and tell them goodbye when they would leave an event. And it's interesting, when they come into an event, they rush, walking twice as fast as they should be, carrying their chairs and their picnics and whatnot. And then when they go back out at night and they're dragging kids and wagons or whatnot, and it would make them smile. And that's what started our friendship circle, that we moved it down to the festival grounds just to say goodbye. See you next year. And it's a fine event.
I believe in thanking the people who make the world a better place, and I'm glad I gave them their due.
There's so many people who wanted to thank you but didn't know who you were. And I really want to share who you are with these folks so that you can just start getting cards and letters from all these people who've been saving up all this love to give whoever it was who did this for them. And that's you folks.
Well, it's a place to enjoy. It really is. But there's a lot of sweat and tears that make that happen, though.
Anything good doesn't just happen.
That's right. I agree.
And you folks made this happen for us. So on behalf of just music, thank you so much.
The park does great things to honor the fallen. For one fallen friend, they even fly a flag. Here's stage manager Pete Stitz to share with us the ballad of our friend Buffalo.
I first met Buffalo back in 97 or 98 upon arriving here at this beautiful park to do some festivals, and used to help run things in the dance tent, which was out in the middle of the meadow field. We would have to pull circuits from this pole and from other parts of the park and everything just to make it work. Every once in a while, part of our PA system would kick off and Buffalo would have to run up to a vendor and turn off a fryer or something just to get us enough electricity to keep going. It was absolutely wizardry, some festivals, on trying to keep everything going, especially at night when the lights clicked on and things really got complicated. But he was also just incredibly helpful whenever you needed anything. It didn't matter if it was an electrical part, a musician part, roofing part, didn't matter. He always had the ability to come back 15, 20 minutes later and hand you exactly what you were looking for. But he's going to be greatly missed around here. He's greatly loved. I think a lot of people still feel his presence out here. I think there's a lot of magic going on with Buffalo still. Miss you, buddy.
Parks Chapel might be non-denominational, but we do have a spiritual advisor, the Reverend Jeff Moisier. Let's give him a few minutes to sing us about grace.
We're all going to play it together, but in our own way. We've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun. We've no less days to sing God's praise, and when we first begun, let's sing it for our country now, everybody together. Oh, amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. Once was was blind, but now I see. I was blind, but now I see. I was blind, but now I see.
Suwannee does pay respect to the departed, but it also celebrates those who are still with us and building new love. When beloved Suwannee Festival family members Jeff and Michelle decided to get married, many of their friends were unable to attend. Someone had the bright idea to hold a makeup ceremony at the hallowed Bear Creek Music Festival at 5 a.m. Costumes encouraged, with Big E, the sexual manatee, serving as minister. What could go wrong?
Amen. Can I get an amen?
No, that speaks volumes for their hope for a life together. Because what it really means deep down inside is one person for the rest of your life. And one person for the rest of your life. That's what you're essentially saying.
Randy Watts.
And maybe sharing a bank account. That was good. So if you are ready to do that with one another, with all these people's love and support, I will have some vows for you to say to one another. Michelle Johnson, do you promise to love, honor, and more importantly, obey?
Cacao? Cacao? I promise to love, honor, and most importantly, obey.
She said the last part.
That's what I'm talking about. That's the hope I'm talking about.
Keeper right there.
Jeffrey
Kurkowski.
Manatee.
Do you promise to love, honor, and let her obey?
I do indeed promise to love, honor, and always let her obey.
I agree to give him the privilege.
Perfect. That being said,
she's gonna be
the ring.
The ring!
You got him. Ring. It's real.
Hey,
there she blows.
praise.
I see it. Oh, I see it.
With this ring, I thee wed.
The wedlock.
Which you will soon consummate in a bus bed.
Soon consummated in a bus bed.
Consummation.
I do.
You may now make out with your new wife. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. and Mrs. Jeff Krakowski.
That might not be what Miss Jean originally intended the chapel for, but I think she'd agree the love was there. You can feel that love in every corner of the Spirit of the Suwannee. Let's talk to James Cornett, son of Bob and Jean, about what makes the Spirit of Suwannee Music Park one of the best places to hold a music festival in the whole wide world.
This facility is unique in that we're open every day of the year. And so therefore we've got staff, we've got equipment, and we build things pretty much every day. And you know, one of the things I know an awful lot of people in the festival industry that are promoters, and most of them go into a facility, whether they own it or rent it, and they're there for, you know, a week to 2 weeks setting up their staging and whatnot, and then they're gone. And generally the place is mothballed until the next show comes in or whatever. And you can't really rationalize putting in permanent infrastructure under that scenario. And in our case, well, being open every day, stuff gets used far more frequently than for a 3 or 4 day event. And so we're constantly improving things, and that adds to it. It's we've got 1,000 plus improved campsites. There's three stages, outdoor stages. You got an indoor music hall with 2 stages, restaurant and bar, general store. I don't know, 30, probably more like 40 or 50 cabins that are available for lodging. 6 permanent bathhouses. Box office is permanent. Most promoters would have to go and put all that in, and they would do it temporarily, so they're renting all of this equipment. We've got power throughout most of the park, so you're not necessarily having to have generators everywhere. There's lighting, permanent lighting through the key components, and then of course I-75 and I-10 4 miles away, with connected by U.S. Highway 129, is a pretty important component of it as well.
Over the last few years, James has turned more and more of the day-to-day operations of the Suwannee over to new manager Tina Peavy. I asked James how he was enjoying his new retirement.
Frankly, I still work pretty darn hard, but I work less hard because of the job she's doing. Our maintenance / construction manager, Kenny Harold, is equally helpful and taking a lot of those decisions where I don't have to be involved in every single one of them anymore, and that's very delightful.
It's one of the greatest blessings of my life to find this place and become a part of the Spirit family. James told me why he had a habit of welcoming artists to the park.
When an artist comes through and has that vision, we try to embrace it as best we can, and encourage them. And for the most part, it works pretty well.
When I thanked James for all he'd done for me, he quickly and humbly gave credit to the Suwannee community, the family as a whole.
Well, I appreciate that, Rex, it's the place and the community that puts it all together, and not to diminish your accolades and thanks, but I get that frequently from a lot of people, and it's not me, and not necessarily my family, although there has been an awful lot of time and energy and some vision put forth from me and the family. But it's really the community itself that's brought this together and made it available for everybody.
He's right. The fans are the true spirit of the Suwannee and the mischief they make. I'm lucky enough to be part of the funnest bunch of mischief makers you'll ever meet. Camp Funk and Jam. I mean, how could you not love folks who turn a simple group photo into a sing-along? Right here, a celebration to last throughout the year. So bring your good times and your laughter too. We're gonna celebrate the party with you. Come on now, celebrations. What Funk and Jam may lack in singing skills, they more than make up for in random acts of silliness throughout the weekends. You see people doing them everywhere at Suwannee. One example I really love is when a group of buddies brought a giant banner from a used car lot to the park, chopped it up, built a giant water slide on the beach. They even brigaded buckets of water up the hill all day long so everybody could get a turn. At the end of the day, to commemorate the memory, I gathered everybody together on the beach for one of my big, giant group shots. Now, I know it might not seem like it, but it's not all epic festivals and beach shenanigans in Suwannee. After all, into each life and each music part, some rain shall fall. And since we're in Florida, That means, like, a whole lot of rain must fall. Like, an insanely monumental amount of rain. Those hurricane things, they're no joke. The Spirit of Suwannee Music Park is actually a hurricane evacuation point. When the storms get bad, they bring everyone in to hunker down and ride it out. Mercifully, clouds clear and the sun shines again. Being a music park, the Spirit of Suwannee cleans up from hurricanes in a little bit of a different order than most places. Job one is to get the backstage area open so musicians have a place to have one of Suwannee's famous pickin' parties. Suwannee seems to inspire musicians to hang out under the trees and have themselves a freeform jam. They might not always know the tune, but listening to them try is delightful. Let's listen to the Emmitt-Nershi Band as they warm up with an unrehearsed Zeppelin tune while the hardest working crew in the biz cleans this place up.
What is that? Zeppelin?
If the sun refused to shine, I would still be loving. When mountains crumble to the sea,
You and me. You and
kind
me.
of woman like you and I. Oh, kind of woman, nothing more. Drops of rain, whisper of the pain. Together, love lost in the days gone by. My love is strong. When there is no one together, we shall go until we die. Oh, my mind, happiness once you are with me. Happiness, look and see. And so today my world is mine.
There would still be a you and me. Alright. What? Y'all good? That's sick. I think so, yeah.
That's more like it. The sun is out, Suwannee is shipshape, and we're getting closer to that moment I've been talking about. But first, shouldn't we build some stages?
Oh, yeah!
Now it's time to honor the only army I'll ever join. The brave battalion of men and women who show up a week before the festival and work day and night so that the musicians have a place to play. I'm talking about the crew. Building and running all these stages is an essential but often thankless task. I mean, if everything goes according to plan, you won't ever even know they're there. But man, if something goes wrong, they're the ones who have to dash out from the wings, fix whatever broke as fast as possible, and then get the hell out of there. I mean, they wear all black to blend in, not just because they look cool. Besides, they get all the cool cred anyone could ever want just doing the jobs they do. So, to help explain how these crews pull off this amazing feat of teamwork, I've enlisted my friend Michael A., event and festival planner of the stars. Between his logistical genius and his incredibly calm demeanor in the face of insanity, he is the absolute best general a stage crew army could ever want. The first thing I wanted to know was how early does he even start working on a festival?
I would say the sooner the better. In the past, it had been upwards of 6 to 8 months. The last one was a little bit different. It was a much more compressed timeline from official hire to show date. I believe it was about 7 weeks, but I didn't wait to get hired to really make that happen. I kind of lined up my ducks, so to speak, and made sure that my vendors were able to come back. And, you get your key people lined up to make sure that they're available, being your stage managers. But the team is really, really critical and early on to find out availability, because anybody that's good is pretty much booked up. So good to get them booked on early. It's all about familiarity with the gig, and most of these folks take ownership in their stages. They all like to think they've got the best stage, and in my mind, they all do. They make it the best stage for them, which makes it the best stage for everybody else. I mean, You know, you've got people that have come into the park for years and years who do multiple events. Again, they take ownership on what they do. These are not folks who come in and, you know, do a one-off gig and they're out. These folks are really dedicated to the stages that they participate in and put their heart and soul into it, which is why we get the product we do. The last few years, we've moved on to PGP's Black Monster stage, which is, you know, familiar to festival goers around the countryside. It's one of the stages that we can have that permits us to have, you know, weatherproof walls and also to support the weight of the production that we bring in for acts like Bass Nectar, Odessa, String Cheese, so that we can hang multiple lighting fixtures and LED walls all off that roof. And the riggers involved are, you know, we hand select our riggers to be sure that we have a solid team and every safety is number one. Those guys and gals are all dedicated to their craft. I've built relationships with these folks over the years, and, you know, I really appreciate what they do. I mean, I always say I'm nothing without my team. I mean, I'm just a bunch of spreadsheets until I get my team. So I put my trust and faith in these people that have been there year after year, who I rely on to do a good job, and they do a good job every time. I'm proud of every one of them. I've seen a lot of them grow up in this industry and move on and go on to tour and national and international tours and then come back and still work these events. So I'm fortunate to have reliable, talented people in my Rolodex, so to speak.
Those talented, reliable people Michael A. just mentioned may be practically unstoppable, but you know, they're still human. Even if you aren't going to sleep, you still need fuel for the fire. Well, let's go over to catering and see what's cooking. Trey Dupree is the head of catering for practically all of the events at the Spirit of Suwannee. He fuels the engine that powers the beast that builds all this madness. During festival season, there are stretches where he is here for weeks on end. Lucky for him, like everything else that gets done here in the park, he doesn't have to do it alone. Trey has his family.
Okay, walk us through this. What exactly are you doing here today?
Feed all the artists, production, staff, and pretty much anybody who can find their way over here to the porch stage. Now, we started out Hulaween with about 15 to 20, and now we're going to peak out at about 320 to 330 today.
Good Lord, 330 people you're going to feed today?
Per meal. So that's
per
meal?
Yes,
we're going to probably hit 800 total meals for the day.
Good God. Just logistically, how do you even figure all this out?
Basically, you just got to get some numbers. Obviously, advances from artists, production people. You get a list of the amount of people you're going to feed, and then I start building a menu and designing my order guide based off of how many people.
You know, I've gone across the country and I've eaten at a lot of festivals, and I'm blessed for that. Don't get me wrong, but one of the things I've noticed about the food down here at Suwannee is, first of all, it's always excellent, but second of all, there's like a touch of home.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, a lot of my recipes are stolen from my grandma.
Oh,
you know?
Sweet.
So a good southern, like stick to your ribs type food. Definitely southern comfort, to say the least.
An army travels on its stomach, and what you're describing is kind of an army that builds this festival. Is it a responsibility you sweat it all?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's definitely stressful. You know, especially when you have call times trying to get stuff out, because a lot of guys have to be at a stage at an exact time to get the ball rolling for the day.
You kind of have put together your own family back there in the kitchens and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I try to hire friends, you know, that are pretty close to me. I have my mom working, which everybody knows as Mama. You know, it's create a family inside of a family inside of a family. Yeah.
Seeing as how it's his gig to know how to properly feed festival folks, I asked Trey if he had any tips for folks trying to operate at peak party efficiency all weekend long.
Yeah, just have proper nutrition. If you're taking a toll on your body, remember you have to recover. So eat your veggies. That's the most important part, you know, like eating sandwiches and stuff are good to make you feel full, but you're not really bringing yourself back. So definitely concentrate on nutrition.
Finally, a visit to catering wouldn't be complete if we didn't check in with Mama. She's got the heart of an angel and she's got the driving skills of a Formula One racer on a golf cart.
So they call you Mama?
Yeah, every one of them.
You encourage that?
Yeah, it's an honor. I feel like it's an honor because not everybody gets that opportunity, you know, and it don't matter how old they are. It don't matter who they work with, what they work with, how they work, or where they come from, what state. It's just a lot of them don't have a mom, you know, or they don't have a relationship maybe with their mom because of whatever reason. Maybe because they got dreads, they got tattoos, they got in the music industry, they got on drugs, or they just, you know, for some reason their parents and them clashed. People need to understand that they're loved. And I mean, when you experience death on any level, but in this world, you see it a lot because you know, the world's not a really nice place anymore. It's not like it was.
It can be.
Well, yeah, if you spread love, we all have to do that, and that's the thing. Kindness is a big deal. It might only be a 4-letter word, but it's a really big word, and a lot of people don't experience it. A lot of people, a random act of kindness, if every one of us did it every day, it would change the world tremendously. I truly feel that.
Now that it looks like they got the stages built, that just leaves one massive project left to finish. It's everybody's favorite place to wander. The living, interactive, psychedelic, enchanted forest we call Spirit Lake. When the String Cheese Incident hosts a festival, they do not screw around. The area around Suwannee's lake is transformed into a living art installation using materials sourced from inside the park itself. My goal is to capture it all as it happens without being seen or heard. Luckily, as a trained professional videographer, I can blend in all my... Damn it! Alright, I'll just talk my regular voice then. Anyway, while some teams are making the floor displays, others are assembling massive metal domes and tearing apart mountains of wooden pallets to create whatever the hell this thing is going to end up being. And then there's the artists. As the day gives way to night, in every direction you look, there are painters sharing their talents and making every square inch of the Spirit Lake area a riot of imagination run amok. All the different styles and techniques combine into a mind-boggling testimonial for human expression. And even if they're exhausted and it's 5 a.m., they're still dedicated enough that they do that thing artists do where they step back for a second to see the bigger picture, make their decisions, and then dive back in. That is a sign of pride in your work. Yeah, sparks are flying all over the place, which is good because it's just not a party without fire. Crystal shrines are being assembled. I'm scheming on stealing a swing. And it looks like they've given up on this thing for the night. Wait, how the hell are they going to get this thing out of here? Kind of looks like somebody wasn't planning ahead. Well, whatever it's going to be, they better hurry because, like the song says, here comes the sun. I'm getting the feeling we're going to get to keep this thing. It looks like once again they managed to get it all done. There's a special quiet camping area where the exhausted artists are sleeping off all these all-nighters, but all that hard work did pay off. I don't know about you, but I need a drink. Let's belly up to the complimentary bar.
So what the hell is a complimentary bar? Give me free drinks.
Unfortunately, we're out of drinks.
That's some bullshit.
Completely out. We don't even have comp. Yeah, so the complimentary bar is always out of booze, but stocked to the brim with compliments.
Oh, I get it. It's a pun.
Yeah, it's very funny. Yeah.
How do you two know each other?
Like your dad's living with my mom, or my mom.
Gross!
Yeah, we're sisters.
Oh, okay. That's the legal thing.
So gross. So gross.
So you take this and you just set this up at a festival,
Yes.
and you stand around and you compliment people.
Yes. Yeah, people really love
pays to be
hearing
kind.
how fantastic they are. Yeah, so we're basically just boosting confidence.
That is the most noble and wonderful thing I've heard all day.
Spreading kindness.
It's a ripple effect.
Yeah.
What gave you the idea to do this?
It was needed. Yeah, we need more positivity in the world, especially right now.
Now, through the miracle of digital editing, let's get it all nice and dark. Spirit Lake is amazing in the daylight, but in the darkness, yeah, it really comes to life. Let's head in and see what. When the entrance is a kaleidoscope of light, you're pretty sure it's going to be cool inside. Hey, that turned out pretty cool. Still no idea how they're going to get it out of here, though. Whoa, it looks like they built a giant wooden spider too. Ooh, correction. A giant wooden spider filled with hippies. I always wonder where hippies came from. Would not have guessed excreted by a giant wooden spider in a field, but you know now, it just seems so obvious. Live and learn. Geez, like, how many people does this thing hold? We probably ought to check them for wristbands. Yeah, I'm impressed too. Watching all the people wandering through this sensory overload is pretty trippy. I mean, it's really astounding to walk through this, and the energy it inspires in everybody, it builds inside. It gets us closer to that moment I'm supposed to be telling you about. That moment's getting closer, but it's not quite yet. First, let's check out one of my absolute favorite sources of light in Spirit Lake. Fire. For the record, normally when the woods all around you are exploding into fire, it's a thing to worry about, but not at Spirit Lake. Now, I know you're not supposed to play with fire, but Spirit Lake brings in some of the most talented fire twirlers in the country to strut their fiery stuff. Well, let's watch. The pyro performers may be fearless, but they are also extremely careful. It's a testament to their skill that every year their performances go off without a hitch. Well, we could probably stay in here all night, but there's a lot left to show you, and before we leave the lake, there's one stage and one artist I really want to focus on. Bean Spence's trademark psychedelic creatures come to life thanks to 3D painting techniques and digital light projection mapping on the stages. The end result is a mesmerizing assault on the visual senses while the music blows your mind. I asked my friend Bean how hard it was to make art for something so big.
Stage artwork is it's really actually very time consuming because you kind of have to see the big picture of the setup of how I would want it. And then you're working on such large scale, 16-foot tall mushrooms for the mushroom stage for Wanee and the backdrop 24 by 70. Just working really, really large scale. So when it's on stage, it's actually still kind of small, and it's really, really hard to do it because it's self-painted. It's a lot of work, and like Hulaween, and I love seeing it, and I love seeing the people's reactions. When I tell them it's three-dimensional, they're like, no way. At nighttime, when it gets a lot funner outside, it's really cool. I don't know.
Bean doesn't just decorate the stages, he designs the event posters and even sells his kick-ass one-of-a-kind art in his vending booth. I asked him how he finds the unusual material he uses for canvases.
I like to use a lot of recycled materials, so when I go in the mangroves, I'm looking for old driftwood or pieces of an old dock that washed up and has been stuck in the water for 5 years, and I'll take it home, dry it out, bleach it, sand it down, and paint on it, and people really like that. I like the weathered look to a lot of my stuff, because I try to use everything recycled, besides the paint, of course. Saves me money, Yeah, seeing their expressions on their faces is just, it makes me so happy. I love it. I love seeing their reactions. They don't even have to buy anything. Just as long as they stop and enjoy the artwork, that's good enough for me.
Bean's not the only one with cool stuff for sale, not by a long shot. There's always beautiful clothes and jewelry from around the world, handmade musical instruments, and if you can outrun my friend Scott, free metal art. Seriously though, I'm just kidding. Pay for it.
How we doing, Suwannee? So beautiful down here. We're so lucky to be here.
I don't know if it's the way the sun shines through the trees or the way the bubbles blow on the breeze, but I do know one thing. All the energy that went into building this musical wonderland, the busted knuckles, the nights with no sleep, not to mention the endless hours these musicians spent practicing and traveling across the country, all that was worth it just to see the love on the faces in the crowd. I've taken 10 gazillion pictures of rock stars on stages, and I'm pretty good at it. But if there's a better way to spend the day than wandering the crowd at Hulaween with a camera, I just haven't found it. You're surrounded by dancing loonies, each and every one shining like the sun. A doctor I know once told me the reason he gave up on sports was that he realized how much it bugged him that one side always went home disappointed. But when he went to concerts, he realized everybody was on the same team. Everyone is there for the same reason. Everyone wins. And that's a sentiment I think we can all get behind. Let's take a look around. Seeing all these folks dancing up a storm reminds me of an important truth. The earth doesn't care what color the feet dancing on it are. The wind doesn't care who you love. And that's how it should be. The sun shines on us all. We are all in this together. Sure, it can get a little weird out there, but it's cool. If I have a photographic area of expertise, it's whipping crowds into a frenzy before taking epic group shots. I'm basically a self-appointed festival hype man. Honestly, it feels like noble work to me. There's no place where firing these folks up is easier than Suwannee. Sometimes they even make my job easier by organizing themselves. It turns out a group of onesie enthusiasts were going to try and break a world record, and they were doing it 100 yards from my house. Let's check out the chaos and see how they did.
We just had a onesie meetup. We were trying to break the world record. World record right now is 1,879, and I don't think we got it, but we had as many beautiful people out here as we could get. So.
Well, you've been doing this a couple of years, haven't you?
This is the third year doing it. First two, it just kept slowly building, and from day one, everybody wanted us to break the record.
Well, now I think we got an idea, and we got a little bit of video to prove everything. So maybe next year we can hype this up and go crazy.
Oh yeah. Oh, I think next year we got it for sure. My friends and I like to be goofballs, and we like to do a bunch of other shenanigans around here. So we throw bubble parties, and we do onesies. And since everybody already wears one, why not just simplify it and organize everybody for it? So
it's the best way to roll at a festival.
Oh, it's the best. It's so simple. So simple in a onesie.
Well, they may have fallen short of their goal, but I got a good feeling about their chances next year. Now, though, it's time for my favorite part of this story. There's a million reasons people young and old flock to Hulaween. Alright, maybe the old people don't flock, but they get there. The closer you get to the big stage, the more your anticipation builds. We better hurry. Hate to talk for an hour, then miss it. The lights are going crazy, the music's getting louder, and all around you, everybody's going nuts. Lighting designers and sound engineers have been working all year long to try and find a way to top what they did last time. Somehow, they always do. The string cheese incident is Keith Mosley on bass, Michael Travis on drums, Michael Kang on electric mandolin and violin, Jason Hahn on percussion, Bill Nershi on guitar, and Kyle Hollingsworth on keys. String cheese is like the ultimate musical Swiss Army band. As much as they can get down into a funky electronica groove, they never forget the Colorado bluegrass sound which launched them all those years ago. It's a tradition for Cheese to play a Sunday morning set with the best pickers in the world like the Traveling McCouries, Sam Bush, and Billy Strings. Whatever mode Cheese is in, you better believe they are nailing it. Between their talent, their diversity, and their undeniably positive vibes, String Cheese has been one of the biggest touring bands in the world for over a decade. They've sold out arenas around the world and hosted festivals. They call them incidents when they wanted to stretch their metaphorical musical legs out a bit. As you've seen, they spare no expense, making every aspect of their experiences as incredible as it can be. When it comes to String Cheese incident experiences, you can't beat their Saturday night Halloween-themed cover set. As one of the photo video crew, there pretty much isn't any place in the festival I can't go to watch the show. And I'm here to tell you, even though I've been on stage, backstage, hell, once I even had the crew hang me from the rafters, with all those options open to me, there's still no place I would rather be than out in the crowd when String Cheese starts trying on their musical costumes. As Cheese plays wild covers from everybody from AC/DC to Tupac and beyond, the insanity dial slowly cranks up. I know it seems crazy to voluntarily film in the middle of a raging concert crowd, especially with like a third of the crowd trying to do the same thing with their phones. Seriously, you can just put your phones down. The footage will suck, you'll annoy the people around you, and worst of all, you'll miss the experience. Look, the point I'm trying to... Hold on, incoming. Pow! It's finally time. That moment I was telling you about. I'm standing right where that dumpster was at the very beginning, but right now, here at the Spirit of Suwannee Music Park, Saturday night at Hulaween, surrounded by 20,000 deliriously happy people, with the air filled with music and mayhem as a String Cheese incident brings their Halloween theme set to a crescendo. At this moment, this is the coolest place on earth. And just like that, the moment is gone.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of the night. We had a great time playing for you. And thanks, all of you, for coming out to the Suwannee Hulaween. This is a record for the most people that have ever come to a show here at this park in Suwannee. Way to rally.
Wait. We gotta clean all this shit up? Ridiculous. Somebody better tell Trey to fire up the grill. Good Lord, we're gonna be here forever. Anyway, that's the end of my story. I truly appreciate you fine folks letting me ramble on like this. It's one of the great blessings of my life, getting to see and share these stories with you. Now, this was just the first tale of many I have for you. From the late night funk frenzy in New Orleans to the Rocky Mountain highs of Colorado, all the way to the mean streets of NYC, we're going to discover just how important music is to us. And check out the fine folks who make it and the wonderful places it gets made. Oh, and we'll most certainly find a way to screw with this band called Mo. It's like a whole thing for me. My promise, though, is that I will bring it all to you in 100% genuine, accept no substitutes, bona fide, factory-sealed Rexivision. Ask for it by name. And I could spend an hour thanking all the people who made this possible, and we're almost out of time, but there is one person I have got to thank, Lyle Williams. Lyle is a concert promoter, and he's the saint who stepped in and saved this production when it looked like all hell was going to break loose. Then, he patiently waited as I suffered through setbacks and health woes and trials and obstacles beyond belief to finally get to this first step and take it. So thank you, sir. You rock. Lots more to come, everybody. And now, to play us out, my friend, the one and only Keller Williams.